Well, hello there, guys, people, accounts, bots, males, females, others. Tick the box. This is my first day back since I literally signed off sick, and tomorrow is officially my final day off on sick. And as people saw today on one of my videos, when I go to the job centre, I have to go in the glass house. And as somebody diagnosed legally with autism, Asperger's, and somebody who is trigger happy, who has complex trauma, hello there, Danya, who could actually legally, medically, everythingly, happily sit here and sit under the mental health label, tick the fucking box, left, right, and center. Can I? Oh, two right. Yeah, we've just had another death today. Another dad has gone today. So we've had Maggie Tuttle this week. My feelings very mixed towards that. As you know, it's the 11th of September today. Danielle, place in the box. What does the 11th of September mean for this network? It's a very significant day to all of us who have been with me, particularly. Maggie existed way before me, but pretty much everything started in 2010. I was out in the media. I put my head above the parapet, and I have done a run up to the 11th of September for many years of my life. The reason being is, as a child, I never had a calendar. There was never a calendar on. All I knew is I went to my mum's every other weekend, and she picked me up at 6, and she dropped me off on a Sunday, and she dropped me off at 6, and that's all I knew, okay? And as a child, trying to suss out these days of these weeks and these patterns of things that start happening, and as you get older, you start seeing a rhythm, and as an autistic Asperger's person, you start to calculate things and look at things and start to look at the perception of the world and people watch and a world through an Aspie's eyes, if that's what I am, according to all these psychologists and psychiatrists that have been prodding and prodding me since I was 3. Literally, I have had the mental health team on me since I was 3. I've had care orders and SENs and intrusions and invasions and tubes up my bum and tubes down my throat and things in my ears and the knit nurse. Anyone remember the knit nurse? I'm glad nobody does that anymore. But like, you know, as a child of the state, you have to have unnecessary medical examinations. And as somebody with complex medical needs, as a child in the care system, having lack reviews, and hello there, Frederick, I'm a little bit concerned and talking about something a little bit daunting before I do, because WAYN actually means something, and I've been doing this long before. On the 11th of September, Where Am I Now, which was a social media network called WAYN, which was for traveling people who basically traveled around the world, and we would basically share our pictures and our networks and things like that. And if anyone remembers WAYN, just put a love or a heart if you're here and you remember a social media network called WAYN. It was Where Are You Now? And it was basically for people who travel around the world and do things, and you just posted pictures of where you were in the world. If every time you changed, you just posted where you were in the world. And I was part of that network. And every 11th of September for me, as somebody who's trying to understand the world, started to understand that on the 3rd of September or around the September, I would be forced into this cattle thing. That meant from the age of 4, I got on this bus, and then this bus drove me down this lane, and then we ran through this field, and then we stood in line, and we went in this building that had these gates behind it, And then we were led into it, and the only place I liked to go in this particular school was it had this little thing behind the drawers, and if you could get through the drawers, you could get through the back. So if anyone remembers the drawers, you could get in and around the back, and I had my own little place in this space, and it took years for teachers to not be able to get me out of this space and finally agree that I was allowed to use this space, and if I chose to go into this space, I didn't really want to be in this space, but I didn't want to be in the space that I was being told that I had to go in, because it had all of these fluorescent lights. And if anybody understands autism, and everyone has a go at me about having a dark room, by the way, but if you understand autism, we are very, 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 very sensitive to fluorescent lights. And when you go into any hospital or you go into any institution place, they have fucking fluorescent lights. It is like a moth stuck on a fucking light bulb for somebody like me the moment you enter into it. And I used to have this way from literally the age of 4 of going into school and finding my entire way around, and you can actually Google this now, I can't think what it is. It's Headley Down infants. It used to be infants, juniors, then high school, and then I went to Bohan, and then I had to go back to a middle school because I changed another place because of Padsbrat as well. So it was an army kid with my mum, with her husband's. So I went back to a middle school, and then you went up to a high school, and then I went off to Germany. So yeah, so every 11th of September, it was my way of stabilizing myself once everybody else had decided who I was, what I want to be, and how I had to do things, what time I had to do things. And I find that really difficult because, just 2 seconds, I just need to. Still here, it's got to do a bottle. So anyway, where was I? It's the 11th of September. So anyway, I'm outputting, and the reason that I'm outputting is because it is the 11th of September, and I've decided to not let anybody get in my way of what I like doing. And I'm hoping that I'm going to find Where Are We Now after this, and Amber will probably try and find it anyway, because she'll be on it like a car bonnet. And I'm going to try and reposition myself back where I belong, if that makes sense. And I've got caught up in something that isn't me. It's not who I am. I'm being trolled. I'm being told I'm this, I'm that, I'm this stuff. And it's really uncomfortable, and people don't know me. And today I stood in front, I didn't record it because I didn't have time. I stood in front of all the fucking security at the front, because I come back out around the safety net and I come back in through the front, and security went boom. And I stood there and I had my boys. So where's the compassion? Where's the understanding? Where is your integrity? And how do you just follow orders and do a job when you know that you are actually abusing an autistic EDS family by putting them behind a glass door in the first place? Because actually, at the moment I turned up, I had to hand in my sick note, even though actually it's the final day. But what I'm hoping to do literally on the 18th now is compound all the money they're going to have to back pay to me, because they've basically cut my benefits because I have a joint tenancy with Dean. And because it's considered joint under universal credits, it completely splits the bills and it splits everything. So I'm only sitting on half, and I've been paying for the full housing because I needed to keep in credit. But you can't keep in credit with council, and you can't keep in credit when you're paid for weekly and it's reassessed every 2 weeks. So this keeps you in debt all the time. So when you're trying to move out of council, I know a lot of people don't want to move out of council. I'm not here to preach to people who live in council. I'm not here to judge people who live in council. My own stepmother hasn't spoken to me since, saying something about not wanting to live in council, because I was born and raised in council. And because I said I didn't want to raise my children in council, she hasn't spoken to me since, because she still lives in council. And it's been very, very difficult for me, from inside my family, to go to college, to go to university, to do things that I was never allowed to do when I was a kid. My mum and dad, I don't even remember them talking. I just used to cross over at the gate. I just used to rock in the hallway, put my headphones on. See to check Shiloh's okay. And then I used to just jump in the car, go to my mum's and sing along in the car with my mum until we got there, and then go home, get my Garfield cut out and put it and make a beach, and then sit and watch Smurfs and things like that and go out to play, you know what I mean? So time to children and to Asperger's people is a very complex thing, because I always got told off for being late for school. And my point is, and I said to the security people today, what is the point of children at school having SENs for dyslexia, for autism, for ADHD? We won't talk about ADHD, will we? But for all these other complexities that determine that a child at school is allowed to be themselves. So in order to be themselves, they have to make reasonable adjustments in a class of, I don't know, what is it now, fucking 40, but how many kids do you get in a class these days now? I don't know. I dread to think. I couldn't cope with it. So, and neither could my kids. And you were always the isolated one out. I was always in withdrawal room. I spent so much time in school in withdrawal room for doing things like if. You know, one RE teacher used to beat me out the fucking room at freaking Ashmanor School when I was, in fact, some of my Ashmanor friends are here. You know, he used to bang my head and march me out the fucking door. So, you know, I said to them today, like, 41 years, mate, 41 years of abuse by this system, and not just by this system, but by, because the system ultimately is just the choices of the people that come together to collate and conversate and collect information and basically say what the basic fundamental needs of the people. But unfortunately, we have this thing in this country called think tanks, right? And they're right cunts, because they do these little stupid experiments and then go out and test on a mean, modium and meridium and hypothesis and null hypothesis and things like that, and sample of people and test the population on how these things work, and then put these in boxes. But what's the really scary thing is this is run by an SPS database analysis, and the DSM-5 is basically a computer base that puts us all into this box. And the only way they can do that, as I've always said, and this isn't what I'm here to talk about today, I was here to do my where am I now. I'm Portsmouth, I'm in Southsea, by the sea. It's not quite how I thought it would be. It's very windy. It's 9:47 here in the UK. I'm in England, and it's fucking bitter and windy and cold, and the heating is not on in this building yet. They don't turn it on until it hits something or whatever, but it's all economy 7 heating, and they turn it off from the main supply, even though we pay about 57 quid a fucking month for it. Portsmouth Council, you're absolute swines, you corrupt bastards. You're doing this on every single flat, and you're charging them for service charges. So we're paying, what, 14 quid a week for the service charges here, that basically, like, seriously, oh, mental, mate, mental. I even told all the fucking vans today for I'll tag them in a minute as well, the freaking vans. It's about time, if they're going to perimeter all this, then the vans can come in here, mate, and we can have our parking spaces, because I've now got 5 tickets on my car. Yeah, so this is not good. This is not funny. There are all 4-hour zone spaces out there. Portsmouth is rife for parking, absolute rife for parking. It's like £1.80 for a minute, for an hour, I think, £1.80. I think it's even worse than that. Like, seriously, the divide between the north and south here in the UK is absolutely mental, and how they select prices and stuff like that. I've had my eviction notice. I've been served my eviction notice. Basically, unless Dean puts in an application for housing benefit or pays the other half of this place, then I have to sync with the kids. And this is mental, because he can't work. He's not taking responsibility for taking himself off tenancy, and I can't remove him from the tenancy unless I take him to court. Now, the challenge is, for people who know, where am I now on the 11th of September? We have ran Walk for Justice since 2013. Unfortunately, when I left Stockport, Jason got into a relationship with another campaigner, and that campaigner took over my whole identity, including creating accounts in my name. She knows who she is. Most people to do with Walk for Justice know who she is. She took Walk for Justice page off me, called me a lot of shit, a lot of aggro, right in the middle of my court case, right in the middle of my committal to prison. So literally, my committal to prison, Sid, went to Scotland for the 11th of September, and I went to London to face my committal to prison on the 11th of September 2013. So that's when that happened. So on the 5th of September 2013, I was served my committal to prison at the Screaming to be Heard conference, which, as people know, was run by Maggie Tuttle. Maggie Tuttle has recently passed. I will be sensitive, just as I will also be sensitive to the fact that I'm being trolled by Bupesh. And if Bupesh knows that today is the 11th of September, and on the 11th of September 2013, my children were taken on the 13th of December 2012. So Walk for Justice was created on the 11th of September, which is my significant day of year. It was a day that I went to live with my mum when I was a kid. So I returned to my mum on the 11th of September when I was 11. And it's been that day. I've marked that day ever since. So it's a time of transition for me always. So 13th of December 2013 was the day that we were meant to arrive in London to serve the class action for all of the people who had been affected by forced adoption. On our way there, I got a call from Bupesh to say that Sam was in labour, had been in labour for 5 days, was being ignored because baby was being removed, and could I get there quickly? And I had to abandon Walk for Justice. I got a lot of trolling for not turning up, but I was at the hospital in Watford. Just as I left the hospital in Watford, the family then got served to go to court. Before I could even get back, they had already removed the family from the building. And when the family had come back to see the baby, there was, as Bupesh says, I wasn't there. I was then gone with Arjuna. Arjuna would pick me up in a car to try to go and find and get back to try to get to the Royal Courts of Justice in time before everybody left, because obviously we had everybody from Empowerment Mondays, which had come out of the day that I was served my commit to prison, and the 11th of what day was my commit to prison, my first one. So they served me, I think it was on the 5th of September. And then, yeah, Sid went to London to Scotland. So Sid Higgerty was a 74-year-old man on that day, and he headed all the way up to Scotland to Arjuna's to start his walk all the way down to London to arrive for the 13th of December with everybody's names that we had collected who had been abused within the care system and pushed further into the inquiry. Obviously, as you know, July 21st, I think it was, I lobbied Parliament for the inquiry into the children that were abused. They only went historic again and refused to accept that it was going on quorum. Where am I now? I'm in the middle of, I don't know what the fuck right now. And I have a man in my life who, when things get about having to cover bills and sort stuff out and get responsible, projects. But with this projection comes a lot of truth. And with this truth, gets very against FEA. Not me, FEA, what we're involved in. And then he calls me a child abuser. And I did this, and Aaron and Faith were taken for this. He even called me a paedophile. But then he leaves me with our 2 boys. So if I was a child abuser and a paedophile, I very much doubt he would leave me with the 2 boys. He tells me that I'm going to end up with a gun to my head. He tells me my mum's about to get assaulted. I have to ask myself whether or not that police officer who I met at Chris, which was a protest 1 week before the Scott protest in 2015, whether that special force police officer who I had that conversation with up at Parliament was right about a Black Bloc protester who might approach me because our movement had been one of the fastest growing movements that they had seen in activism in 30 years, and how we had created something so big so fast they were quite bemused by. So I had every movement through these think tanks that I was talking about a minute ago get infiltrated. And one of the very difficult things about somebody like me putting my head above the parapet, and I put my head above the parapet in October 2010 when I did Challenge Britain, and it was just literally my training manual to serve in and basically go down to job centres and stuff and do all the hokey cokey with everybody and you know, blah blah blah. So you know, work coaches are us. Woohoo! Happy clappy. But you know what I mean? I never, ever, ever, ever expected in that to find so many people who, when someone like myself and what are called non-directive coaches take the time to just allow somebody to just go through. And it doesn't matter if they fucking shout at you, scream at you, come at you with a fucking knife, whatever. It doesn't matter. We'll go with you right the way through. Because what happens with psychotherapy and coaching and stuff like that, they do what's called summarizing and reflecting. So coaching, counselors summarize and reflect. You always hear psychotherapists always saying, how does that make you feel? They're the ones that drug. No, psychologists, sorry. The ones that drug are psychiatrists. A psychiatrist and a psychologist is 2 very different things, and a counsellor is a different thing. Blah, 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 blah. I've done all of that, done all of their stuff, did all the psychology, blah, 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 blah. That. Even all this spectrum shit, you know, diversity, you know, can become diverse, you know, spectrum, blah, you know, labels are for tins, labels are for jars and tins, they're not for people. We're human. We are male and female, whatever anyone wants to say about gender neutral, you know, have your own debate and argument. I could knock it out in one go. So, you know, don't project on me. So that's your argument. It's not my life. So, it does affect me if I put my children in the education system, then we've got problems. So if you want to teach my children gender neutralisation, then we're going to go poo, 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 because nobody teaches my children that shit, do you know what I mean? So yeah, we have a Houston, we have a problem. Education system, we have a problem. But if you people want to send children into gender neutralisation, that's completely up to you. I choose not to, and that's my prerogative. But I've done my research. In fact, I was actually at as we came out of the inquiry for the reading for the debate on forced adoption in the UK, at the same time, the children's sex education thing was being heard, and you want to hear us all in the middle of what I call meet me in the ballroom. The meet me between the Lord and the stairs between the Lords and the Commons, right in the middle. So one day it will happen. You know it. We all know it's going to happen. We can't not say it's going to happen, not happen, because it will happen. I don't know when it will happen, but it will happen, and I'll get 3 minutes to bring everybody to a stone cold halt. As it stands right now, my day is the 11th, as from yesterday. We, the people in the United Kingdom, are free, really. We currently have no government at all. The Queen is currently has no king seated with her for a long time. The king has never ever taken his position in this country for some strange reason. I found out today that not a lot of women put men on tenancies, which I didn't realise was going on so badly in this country. I understand, because of my situation that I'm currently in now, why they do it. I get it. I've been in this situation twice now, and it's not good again, but I'm now paying the consequences of a father that doesn't provide and protect for his family. And that means that the mother has to remain in the benefit system while breastfeeding and having to clear up the mess. But the benefit system doesn't work that way when you have a joint tenancy. So we haven't cleared up all of that. And the only way we can do that is through family courts. And we all know where that goes, to CAF. And if I mention some of the things that have gone on between Mr. and Mrs. Smith during this time of relationship of 4 years, then they would classify us as domestic violence, and we all know where children go with that. So it's a really tricky situation to maneuver the system right now. Maggie Tuttle said on one of her videos, and she was very much right, that social services are the biggest army, and they are in everything that exists. So if you have a child in this country, then you have a midwife, you have a health visitor. They are under multi-agency. They have child protection. Then your child goes to nursery. They are multi-agency. That has a child protection officer. Then they go into school. They are multi-agency. That goes to child protection. Then they go to college. That is multi-agency. That is child protection. Then they go to university and hey, Party City, and go and get a degree, 40% pass rate, and become incompetent in our system. Do you know what I mean? Have no experience, and hey, maybe become a social worker, fucking up people's lives. So, you know, we're dealing with a UK that is completely and utterly fucking incompetent. Like, even I am in an incompetent fucking mess right now, because I'm having to scream, beg, borrow. I won't steal, but I nearly fucking, had to say to my shopkeeper today, my son's just picked up this sweet and taken the top off. It's like, just put it on the side. I was like, I can't just put it on the side. He's like, just put it on the bloody side. Come here, like that. I was like, oh shit. Like, seriously, I haven't even got the money to pay for it. So, like, please don't, because I'm going to have to, like, leave it on the shelf. And I don't like seriously, I remember shoplifting when I was like 17 for like nappies when I was abandoned by Liam's father when I was 19, and it was like, fuck me, I've no nappies, what the fuck do I do? Everything come through the army, everything was paid through the army, my house was paid through the army. I didn't know what council tax was. I didn't even know how much our rent was, because it all came straight out of his pay. I didn't even know what our bills were, because he just dealt with all of that. So did Graham, when I was married to Graham. So, when I divorced and become 100% independent, I'm fine. you know, when I'm independent and I'm on my own and I'm responsible for my decisions, and I don't have somebody telling me how long are you going to be and where you're going and what have you been up. I don't mind well, yeah, I do mind what you've been up to as well, because like, you know, it's how long have you got, and you know, do we have a two-sided conversation where it goes backwards and forwards, or am I just going to talk, or are you just going to talk, or are you actually really interested? Do I answer this question? Do I not answer this question? You know, yeah, it's really difficult for somebody like me to just sort of like, you know, like, yeah. So yeah, they say women shouldn't say too much, and children should be seen and not heard, and that you know, men are the providers and protectors, and women are the carers and nurturers. But you know, that exists when men were the providers and the protectors. There are women out there who have this, and I once went to a 60th wedding anniversary, and it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen, to see all Paul's like baby pictures in an album, and his first 10 years and then 20 years, like connected in with Janice, and Janice had hers from a baby, and then they had like the album of when they were at university, when they met, when they come together, all their travels, then when they like bought their first house and doing up and renovating and everything, and you know, they even did the nursery up before thinking about the kids, and you know, and then you've got baby coming into the world, and then the family christening and all this sort of stuff, and you know, their kids growing up and the family holiday albums and all of this, and all the way through to their sort of like 60 years of marriage, and you know, sort of like 80 years of their life. Do you know what I mean? And it was just to walk across this table and just flick through these photo albums, and you know, see somebody's life just literally like over the table, was one of the most magical, beautiful things I've ever seen. I am actually one of them people who do like slideshows, and I do like flicking through people's photographs, and I do like to see people's memories. But photographs are so difficult as well, because people pose people in different modes, you know. Some people show, as you can see, I am certainly not one of these coaches that comes on and puts a nice suit on and does their hair up and has immaculate neighbours and neighbours. Yeah, I do have nice neighbours, actually. I have lovely neighbours here, to be honest. You know, my eyebrows haven't been done for goodness knows how long. I did get them threaded last time, which was really cool, and you know, maybe I should do it again. But budget per se and all this sort of shit, you know, it's really difficult on a skinny blanket. You know, we've actually been talking, mums over there, about where we could actually come together to do a bit of a mum swapping with all of our clothes and stuff. I've got shed loads here, literally, like sitting here next to me now. Where am I now? I'm sat in a 1-bedroom flat in the middle of Somerstown in the 17th story. So to all the people who knew me back in, say, 2007, when I designed my home and everywhere that we were going to live and everything, it didn't happen, as you can tell. And not only did it not happen, I lost 2 of my kids along the way, and not only did I lose 2 kids, I pretty much fucked up the life of my 2 older boys who still live. Daniel, not so much. He's very grounded and done very well. Liam is now getting back on his feet after also losing his own family. In fact, he's going off to see us at the moment, but you know, what can you say? You know, mummy didn't get to clip the aprons the way I did before, but he's been around tonight, giving me a hug, and I've had a bit of a cry, and you know, he's told me how brave I am now, how much he respects me and admires me, everything that I'm doing. And you know, as long as I hear that from my kids, I really don't give a shit what the rest of the world think, because Liam has been with me 23 years. He knows me inside out pretty much. I can be as open and honest. And now he's an adult. He's an adult boy. Do you know what I mean? He's 23. And we've had the closest relationship ever. Like, you know, he's been with me since I was like 18. Do you know what I mean? So we grew up together. We didn't just, you know, I didn't just raise my son. We grew up together. You know, I still pigeonholed and got some of my youth time through being a mum. But ultimately, I've been a mum since I was 18. So no, I'm not one of these people who are out doing like, you know, hipping hopping and doing whatever, do the best that I can. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a support network. I don't have grandparents around. I don't have uncles and aunts. I don't have, you know, all that stuff that, you know, other people have. So, you know, I've fucked up again. I don't think I've necessarily fucked up. I think that the circumstances that we've been thrown into have been absolutely mental. I mean, to stop both of us working was absolutely mental. I mean, like I said to them in the meeting, you know, if somebody else in your room, if this room was pregnant, you wouldn't be on maternity leave yet. So why do I have to be? You know, why does Dean have to stop his career? And this is the one thing that annoys me about the system is it's the social care system, like going through child protection or the Section 47, is they don't understand the consequences in your careers or your job or even benefits, because if children are removed and taken, you know, straight away that affects people's, you know, work standard, life standard, mental health, what you're going through. It becomes a full-time job. You know, being in the benefit system is a full-time job. Like, when you've got to be sort of job searching like 40 hours, not that a lot of people do, but someone like me who actually wants to work is constantly building on ways around how I'm gonna, you know, do this as not just a single mum. You know, I have to remember that even if it does work out with me and Dean, that Dean is also autistic and he's dyslexic. I'm also dyslexic. So, but it's my duty and responsibility as a wife to aid him in what he needs to do. And people can go on about what Dean's doing all they like, but they don't know who Dean is or what he's about or what he considers being on tour or how his brain works, how many miles and how many shoes that man goes through. Like, because he walks hundreds and thousands of miles. Like, he walks, like, literally. He's been picked up by the police so many times walking along, you know, the motorway, because it's the quickest way for him to get from, say, Bristol or Brighton. You know, don't forget, you know, 13-year-old lad, but, you know, 17, waking up in Reclaim the Streets, you know, all about not having too many cars on the world, and didn't want to be that sort of person. And he's been like this nomadic, free party, you know, sort of off the grid. It was like an off the grid meets materialistic woman, you know. That's a bit of a disaster in the first show, do you know what I mean? So he's a nomad. That's who he is. That's what he's about. That's what he does. It's me that can't break my chains to handing over the keys on this place and just literally just getting in my car and fucking off and going, you know, going through social, you know, twice, 3 times. Since being here in Portsmouth, I've been assaulted by the police, like physically with bruises and everything, here in Portsmouth while pregnant. So while pregnant, we're not protesting, just going to the shop for milk. Like, literally just going to he grabbed my buggy. That's all what he did. He grabbed my buggy. I grabbed my phone. After that, I grabbed my son, you know, in order to get my son off me. He physically assaulted me while pregnant, you know, fucking bastards, you know. 2 police officers, raw times, but yeah, bastards, you know. And what they put me through as a mother who was pregnant, you know, even having to go to the toilet, you know, with 2 men in a room with me, like, fuck this shit. Like, I said to them, like, even if I did have mental health issues, they just said I was stressed. But, like, I was stressed because you touched my fucking buggy and told me I couldn't go somewhere. And they said to you, come on, you know, be reasonable with me. I've already had 2 kids taken off and been through social to protect my son. And the fucking copper says, yeah, and this is your 3rd. And you wonder why I'm going to stand there like that with my son in my arms, telling you to stand down. Please just fucking make some calls, double check some stuff before you make this decision. You know, 5 days. I got my son back within 5 days, but, you know, 5 fucking days away from my mum is fucking lethal. I've never had a return child. You know, my son's scared of police. My son runs. He runs and hides. Living in a city where there's police, he likes police cars. He hasn't got a problem with police cars, but police people is a bit different. loves police cars, loves ambulances, but police people is different. Police uniform, if they step towards him, is very different. He is a traumatized, removed child. I, as a mother, have done the best that I can to try to bridge that, because I don't want my son to become anti-state. I don't want my son to ever feel that he can't talk to a policeman about something that's going on that is not right within his community that needs to be sorted. I don't have problems with, policing our society. What I have problems with is nanny state fucking. Like, if you go to other countries, and not a lot of people here in the UK have been to Europe, right? And not a lot of people want European people here in the UK. I consider that racism. It's not even European people, it's worldwide. We, the people, wherever we basically be born through a vagina, doesn't matter what hospital we were born in or what country we were born in, we were born from our mother's womb or vagina. We may, per se, have been blessed to have had people who have trained to bring children into the world just in case there are medical complications, and we're blessed and gifted to have this. But just because that stamp said that our child was born, say, in Portsmouth Queen Alexandra Hospital, as my children were, and the council then may give me a property in that local area, then that doesn't really mean that that's all that I am. And I might be able to work for my area and say, what is it, 26 days a year you get off? Like, that just seems, to my world, where I came from before my kids were taken, they would say that just seems really alien, that somebody tells me that I can have 26 weeks a year to go to another country. And actually I can't, because I can't afford to go more than maybe a week or two. And to be honest, I can't even actually budget enough to get a driving license or even a passport or have these luxuries. And now you've got people telling you to burn them because they don't want you to be able to travel. This was about divide and control, yet you can't see the divide and control going on. Lift the veil, do you know what I mean? So, do I consider myself a racist? I struggle with a certain type of culture. Yes, I do. Is it because of mainstream media? Is it because of the way that that culture treats women? Is it because of what I've seen that goes on in their culture that I find quite barbaric, like decapitating heads, so to say? Is it because I hear that a certain culture, to somebody like me in an area like this as a single mum, if a certain culture here heard about that, there is this thing that, and I wouldn't want to jinx or say that it's one type, because I don't know what's nickname, what's what, like, but there is a certain type that will come in and threaten to inject children and prostitute the mums out, and certainly take people like me in this situation and prey on that vulnerability that I'm facing a pending eviction if I don't clear my debts by, the 8th of October, 4th of October, I think it is, which actually I'd sort of set that. So I don't mind being held accountable for what I'm responsible for. But what's annoying me is my entitlement says that I'm a single mom. So therefore my rent is covered. But because I have a joint tenancy and Dean doesn't take responsibility for that joint tenancy, therefore I only get half the benefit. So that means I have to cover the whole rent, which means I have to take food from my children. I've already got all of the shit going on with the fact that I was illegally kicked off, and the fact that I've got all of these outpayments with overpayments, and now I've got Elijah and Aaron and Faith stuff going through and stuff like that. And then I'm being told I can't work. But hey, in November, the state expects me to go to work because Shiloh turns 2, so my youngest child turns 2. And government only cover 2 children, so if me and Dean do work out and we have another child, we know full well that it's not government's responsibility to support our children. I'm not asking government to support my children. I'm not asking to be in this situation. I've done exactly what I have been told to do by the system, and this is where it has landed me. Okay, well, there is another choice available to me. I do have options. I can walk out this door tomorrow if I really wanted to. And if I do get that car sold, I beg thing, please check over the car. I need it checked over. I don't know if it's because I'm leaving the little light on. It's due an MOT. I've asked him to do that. All these people, basically, take me out of this situation. This is how bad the system is. My friend Graham, who lives upstairs, who was the BBC producer for Snooker, right? In his 70s, probably close to 80s. We don't talk about his age. His Mrs. Jenny, evicted from previous property in a Roberts Centre, being asked to get their stuff, get a note through the door to be there by 12 to remove all their stuff or it gets skipped. Jenny managed to get on a bus, get down, get there, pack as much as she could. They'd agreed to remove certain items and put it in storage for her. But however, they don't support them as a couple because he's an alcoholic. So they've separated them as a couple. He, however, has a hernia. Every time he starts going out, ends up in A&E or having to sit and drink the fucking pain away, trying to get down, dealing with stuff. They've asked me for help. I've tried speaking to people. Nobody will give me any advice. I've asked people to have a look. I can't use my car at the moment because the bank has cancelled all my direct debits and cancelled the ones that they shouldn't have cancelled and kept the ones out that they shouldn't do. Constant fuckabouts with the system. Been in the glass house again today. So I've decided that because of the amount of trolling that I get and because of the amount of shit that I get off the people, that the consequences that I get for restoring families. And I don't do this for gratitude. I don't do this for fame. I don't do this for glory. I don't do this for money. I do this because it's fucking wrong. I do this because I cannot tolerate hearing that another child is being taken. And I look at these situations and people go, oh, but she did coke while she was pregnant. Okay, I get it. I understand. But you can't brainwash an entire fucking society that ends up with this chav culture and then penalise them. It's wrong. All the foster care kids that are over in that place are having their kids taken off them. Yes, they are going out and smoking joints. They're smoking while pregnant. Yes, they are taking lines of coke. Yes, they're chabbing it out. Yes, they are, probably going into the pubs and the clubs while pregnant. Some of them, however, are not. Some of them are trying to get their heads out. Some of them were like that prior to getting pregnant. Babies, they feel, saved them. They're doing their best. They get their heads down. They do the best. They do their piss tests. They get through these things. They get checked in. They get checked out every day. They come out. They sign. They check the hand. They go through all their stuff. They check all of their items. They go through their things. They sit through their meetings. They, account for themselves. They do the best. But nothing's ever good enough because they're foster care kids. And straight away they've had parent separation anxiety, all of the labels that tick the boxes to then say there's going to be another removal. And this cycle has to stop. This cycle has to stop. There are better ways to support people who are, and I will say it, irresponsible, get pregnant, get up the duff, whatever you want to put it, don't know who fucking dad is, aren't even sure what the fuck's going on. Because if you are sexualizing children, your consequence of that is when a penis enters a vagina and it does all that thing where all of a sudden it goes all creamy, and this is called an ejaculation, and this thing has sperm in it, and then the sperm goes into, the whole story that we all know, and then it goes into the egg and oops, upside the head, we have a baby. Shit happens. Then we have to deal with it. What we don't do is make it socially acceptable and the norm, but we deal with it and we make it, what it needs to be. But it doesn't mean that we have to make it okay, but it doesn't mean we have to judge either. And it's a really difficult fine line because we can't as a society continue with this sexualization of children and not expect this epidemic of teenage pregnancies and, you know, and underage sex and children. And, you know, if they can get in there early enough, they are actually asking for terminations. They are forcing terminations. I was a forced, my daughter was a forced determination when I was 15 in foster care, you know, so I know this stuff goes on because I was one of them. And it's still going on now, just like in mental health hospitals, they still do all that shit. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, as a group of people, technology's allowed us to advance a little bit more than per se just listening to a teacher standing in the classroom, you know, 9, 18, 20, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 91, 90, 99, 108. I actually remember the last two. You know, it's not as simple as, you know, that. So technology really has given us the opportunity to learn, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that we learn is truth. It's people's opinions and perspectives and media and mainstream media manipulation and other people's things. You know, even the Epstein, I don't know, Epstein's never raped me. I don't know the truth. You know, who's a paedophile, who's not a paedophile. I've been accused of being a paedophile. So I've been accused of being a social worker, MI5 agent, running a fucking, you know, doodah, network of fucking whatever, you know. I've been accused of even being unfaithful to Dean. Even had people tell Dean I've been unfaithful and he fucking believes them over me, so fucking so be it, you know. If you can believe fucking numpties that want to cause shit between us, and you know it's going on. It's going on all over fucking Facebook right in front of people's fucking eyes. You know, it's not always about, you know, what we're doing with ripping the whole out of this. You know, people are trying to destroy our relationship all left, right and centre, and that's not very nice. So I've even had Dean accuse me of creating the fucking fake pages from Zoella, and no, Zoella actually rang me, miscalled him, fucking showed it and went, nah, I didn't answer the fucking phone, mate. You know, you caused this shit, you know, you're out there, you're interacting, how you choose to, you know, blag your way, you know, with getting your art back out there and, you know, trying to sort all this shit out that's gone on in his life, because he's got parent alienation as well. Don't forget, you know, his daughter's a very famous runway model. You know, she's a TV, CBBS, you know, India Jazz. You know, have a look on Instagram. That's my children's sister. So, you know, he's been alienated. Same time my children have been forced adopted. So I don't get in the way with how Dean chooses to deal with that, and I don't get in the way with who Dean was before Dean met me. He chose to leave that relationship because he'd become a prisoner to the system, and that's not who he is and what he's about. So I don't take that side away from Dean, and never would choose to take that side away from Dean. I'm quite happy with the fact that it's winter right now, and me and the two boys can start preparing to cozy up. And if Dean wants to be off around Germany and backpacking and trekking through the winter, so fucking be it, you know, as long as he's coming back every now and then and, you know, cuddling up with the boys for a few days. And, you know, me and Dean get on really well, you know, when we're just left to it. It's when we've got all the shit and we've got to sort it out and talk about it. He doesn't want to hear it because he's just got home and he wants to just be with his family and doesn't want people knocking on the door, and he doesn't want, you know, all this shit going on. He's a very private person. He's always been with people who are behind, you know, the set of what he does. And I would have been if I hadn't have put my head above the parapet because of being a working mum with a physical condition and not having the reasonable adjustments. And it shouldn't even be about reasonable adjustments. It should just be that I have this hidden condition. You can't see it. I have to work to my own pace. I can't do things to everybody else's way of doing things because my body just doesn't work like that. So no, I can't drag my ass out of bed at 7:30 when the fucking alarm goes off. And if a fucking alarm like a ratty clock went off next to my fucking head, I'd be likely to fucking throw it through the fucking window. Like I said, I'm hypersensitive, you know, so I'm not the sort of person who's going to turn up at 9 o'clock in the morning all prepared and sunny-eyed and happy and bubbly and, you know, things, because that's just not quite how I work. So you're asking me to be a square peg in a round hole, and I don't fit into that society, and I don't choose to fit in that society, and I don't choose to be in that cattle market, rat race, hamster wheel per se society. But that doesn't mean it is wrong, actually. You're a slave. But like, you know, I'm not judging how people choose to get up every day and choose to live their life. What I'm saying is I choose to get up every day to fulfill this, I don't even want to say vision, a dream, aspiration, something that I dwell on quite a lot, think about quite a lot, feel it in my heart, feel it in my soul, feel it in my spirit, see it, daydream about it. There's quite a lot of things that go on like that with me. And people say that I'm easily distracted. I'm not. And they have a go at me for being in my own head. An Asperger's person spends a lot of time in our little world, in our own head. Is that good or is that bad? We use our heart and our heads. Everybody says we should be in here and we're not in here. And I say, is that because you can't be in here and here at the same time? Because I'm the sort of person that leads with my heart, and, you know, I understand the battlefields of my mind, but I understand my own mind. I know how it works, and I understand my dimensions and my planes and my high powers, if that's what people want to talk about. There certainly are more gods. The Lord in the Bible said not to worship them above him, but he didn't say there weren't more gods. He just said that you weren't to worship these gods more than the creator. That's all he said. He didn't say there weren't gods. So all those gods lead to the creator in the end. It's just that how people choose to get there, or what they choose that their language may be. That was the first stone that was casted, that we were divided by language so we can communicate with each other. And English has been a way of communicating much more. English has dominated the world much more than any language. I'm English, for those in WAYN, where are you now? I might even hashtag that. So I'm not here to do an hour every night anymore. And that reason is because literally now I'm preparing myself for the 23rd of September, which is hibernation time for me. And I want to get all my big sloggy jumpers out and all of my nice cozy clothes and all of my really nice warm things. And yet again, I'm going to say, I would really like to have a proper fireplace, and I just want to write my book. That's all I want to do. I just want to write my book. I want to handwrite and I want to computer write, but I want to desktop write, and I just want to write my book. I just want a proper office space to write my book, where we can go out of our own front door, where I don't have to see thousands of people a day automatically just to get out my front door, where I can go into a garden to my own space. And even if I go into my car, I still don't have to see anybody else. Sorry, don't take it personally. I'm autistic. I'm overloaded. And I just literally, with my paperwork and my timeline and all my things and everything that reminds me of all my memories and everything from my life and everything, because I don't just want to talk about bad times. You know, I've got lots of good memories in my life, like amazing memories, like, you know, I've got amazing memories from my life. You know, don't forget I'm pretty well travelled. So, you know, I was mono skiing in Barbados at the age of 14 and 15. You know, so walking around Athens by myself at 14 when my mum was temping bowling for Great Britain. Benidorm when I was 11. I'm not as well travelled as my sisters. Like, my sisters went to private school and they're like major well travelled. They've done all of the cruises. They've done first class around. My sister lives in Singapore now, so and my other sister is pretty much travelled. I don't think my brothers and my sisters, and certainly not my brother Ryan, who lives with my chubby stepmom, who I love dearly, ex-stepmom. But my brother and my sister from my dad's side. I know they've been to America and things like that, but I don't think they're as well travelled as my sister. And it's not about my mum. It's not my mum that's done it for them. It's been their dad. So their dad owns GT Exports. So, you know, obviously fast cars and lots of money. So they've been very well travelled. So yeah, I do have lots of good memories. Lots of good memories. Lots of good memories of good times. It's just unfortunately, if something is underlying, then, you know, then everything is built on sand. So I've had enough. I'm going to court. I would like to write my book, then go to court, because I think it would protect me if I get gagged in court. I don't know how that's going to work, because the moment my book comes out, I'm breaching my gag, because I'm actually putting my paperwork in the book with all of my cross-references and how they've done it. Anyone else can do the same, I don't care. You know, your audience is your audience, mine is mine. You know, I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm not here to race anybody. I'm not here to be better than anybody or less than anybody or better in any way than anybody. I'm just here to do what I do best while you do what you do best. And hopefully together, between a lot of us, we'll all get some form of change for the people in the system. We will never get the time that we've lost with our families, but it keeps us going. It gives us something to get up for in the morning. But, you know, for me, I really do need my websites working. I need to be working. I need to be making money. I need to be dealing with property. I need to be flipping property. I help a lot of people through property because, you know, I can give a good opportunity to people in situations like me that don't have bonds and, you know, don't have guarantors and don't have all the necessary tick boxing requirements and 2 years books and employment records and P45s and all that stuff that, you know, get you into proper doodahs. And for an autism, if I'm bouncing, I'm sure my leg is bouncing like mad down here. You can see it. Literally, my leg is just going. You know, I let it all out. You know, I spoke to somebody else who was an Asperger's today, and we were talking about masking all of our little Aspie traits that people find really annoying and tell us to stop doing, and how difficult it is, like especially when you've got a little leg that goes and actually I used to like clacking my teeth and I was one of them who used to push on my eyeballs and play Space Invaders and things like that. So and I do that all the time. And obviously they say you don't grow out of autism, you just learn to try to function with the aliens, per se, the zombies as we call them. Not here to judge the neurotypicals in any way, shape or form. I'm just here to say you major fucked up, guys. And there needs to be a new perspective on the way things are, and obviously people like us were created to be that new perspective, whether you like it or not. So don't disable us, enable us. And I will take my position in a room, in a boardroom, where I talk to people in a meeting room, and people go and do things, and I get paid, and that's all good, blah, blah, blah. But I don't want to become this problem that exists in this system. I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to go through this system that currently exists. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Unfortunately, guys, there's going to be a lot of anarchy on the streets. Please, 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 please be careful. There is going to be a lot of anarchy on the streets up until 10th of October, so for the next month. I know this to be true. I know a lot of things are going to happen. I know there's a lot of people partying, celebrating, taking the streets, reclaiming the streets. And I know there is a plan for when they return. But just as other people think they have a strategy, the Queen is protecting her castle. So she has a bigger strategy, and what they are all being led into will bring an excuse for the Tartarian state. When that happens, we will maybe lose connection, because with the EU comes all our satellites, all our internet, everything like that. We, the British people, are an island. and we are just about to sever all. We're basically burning our bridges with every other country around the world in the EU. Don't forget, United Nations, Commonwealth, boom, 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 Geneva Convention, whatever. We, the British people, cannot point fingers at politics and the people who are in parties, because they're just schoolboys having a party on our expenses, basically. And we're all part of basically a golf membership club that they're fart-arsing around with. And during this time, communities, well, the people that live in these so-called cities and counties have what should be called communities. And there are some cliques that exist, but there isn't quite community. And the reason that there isn't this community is because there is a divide between business and pleasure. And that business and pleasure divide means that you can't be friends with somebody who works blah, 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 blah. Conflict of interest, basically. So we're in conflict of interest all the time. So we have to flip over this conflict of interest and we have to become communities, because Boris Johnson can't come and mow little old ladies' lawn. Not that we have lawns here in Portsmouth and they're done by the council, so he can mow the lawn per se. So, but he can only maintain so much, and jobs can only be created per budget to take those roles. So if we don't take responsibility for our own actions, dropping our own litter, recycling, all these normal things, then basically somebody has to be paid to do these jobs, and someone has to organise these people. Business, government is a business party, blah blah blah. But we do need to form assemblies now. Before government come back, we all do need to be meeting at our town halls. We all do need to be sitting down and be a vegetarian or have a barbecue or whatever, have family fun days. And prior to coming into autumn, get down to town halls, because it's a good place to meet first. Should someone chair? Should someone lead? Should someone speak? Or should it just be have a day where literally between, you've got a network of people, again, why don't we just lead it by their way and just say on the day that they all come back, that we the people all agree to meet and greet them and all turn up and have our conversations then, outside our own town halls. So where we live, nobody has to travel, nobody has to get anywhere. The homeless can be there, rich can be there, poor can be there, lefts can be there, rights can be there. It's not about banners, it's not about being cunts, it's not about saying you're a bastard. It's about us coming together and going, look, we're families who need roofs over our heads. These buildings are shit, these buildings work, these buildings don't work, knock this building down, rebuild this, regenerate this. Do we need schools? Do we not need schools? We've got a high amount of people that like to actually be at home. So, do we need office spaces that are children friendly? And we need to sit down and talk about these things. And if we're not a person who lives in a place that wants to stay in a place and be a settler, then we need to have some form of mutual respect and understanding between people who pass by and need to eat the food for the people that are budgeted for, because council can only provide based on that budget. Supermarkets don't even know what the fuck they're doing, but we can get rid of all of that. We can, and that's fine. Who really wants to go and work for Tesco's and Asda? Really? Wouldn't you like to go and prefer and work down to in your local community garden and everybody have a £3.50 box? You can get your veg daily if you want, or weekly, and actually you can even go and pick your own, because you can be part of a membership program to log into your own area and grow your own patch and feed your own family and whatever. Why not? And even if you don't want to go down, then you can cover the rental of that space for somebody else who does want to go down and does want an opportunity of doing that stuff. And we can actually build communities with settlers and travellers and bypassers and bystanders and whatever. There's no reason why we can't. It's just that I think we here in the UK have to accept that some old has to go, some new needs to come. Some things do need renovating, and people will either do things from a servient, humble heart, or they will do it for money. So if money is what's causing greed, then why don't we take away what causes greed and create what creates compassion and community? Because I think the Queen's doing a very good thing by now by pulling Parliament out, because it is going to force for the people to have to stand on their own 2 feet and not rely on government right now, because we don't know what the fuck's going on. So we do have to come together and start thinking about whether somebody just needs a nod and a smile. Are they on their own tonight? Do they need a hand with their bags coming in? Is it a bit difficult the way they're living right now? Could maybe actually they have another opportunity for a life, but they just don't know how to achieve it? That maybe you could put them in a car and go and show them, and maybe go through some paperwork and help them understand how Equifax and Experian works in a system that we currently have. And we can discuss this in the assemblies. We can discuss this by going, should we have Equifax and Experian? Should we have this credit control? Should rentals and things be governed this way? Or should there be a better way? Because businesses are only made by people, so we could turn around as a UK country and say, well, I'm sorry, there are certain businesses that we are not going to allow. Like, take the Muslim cultures, for example. They don't believe in alcohol, they don't believe in smoking, they don't believe in all of this stuff, yet they have corner shops in the UK that serve everything that they disagree with. Just saying, so where's your money going? And what's it feeding? And what's that money then going off to? How do you know? And yes, I do have a bit of an issue with the culture. I'm not talking about Muslim as a whole here, because actually the culture, I'm actually thinking about not Muslim. But all of those faiths are all against alcohol, fags, chocolate, milk, bacon, yet they serve it in their shops and pollute our children and people. So, not saying, just questioning, just asking questions. So anyway, I've gone way over the hour that I would do. But from now, all my thoughts, all my thinking has to be funneled, and I have to stay proactive now, because I've basically got to summarize up how Aaron and Faith were taken, why they were taken, how it was done, what was right, what was wrong. Go back into places that are going to be quite doodah, and I just don't think it's right to be. What I'm going to do is the gagged page will get opened, book title and everything will get together. The book's called Gagged. I've also got Forced Adoption Exposed and Step Up Britain, and then from there are sub books as well on how to overcome childhood sexual abuse, how to overcome eating disorders, how to overcome everybody label that they've given you. So that will all be put together, but that won't be put together until 2020. So at the moment it's Gagged. I'm hoping James is coming on Friday, so the reporter and journalist and team is here on Friday. He's getting trained. I'm hoping he's got a good budget, so we can get out and maybe get out around Portsmouth. He's never been to Portsmouth, doesn't know Portsmouth. Oh, he might have been, but he doesn't know it. So, and unfortunately, he's going to come here. So this place has to be ready on Friday. And right now, it's not. So I need all the paperwork ready, and anyone out there who is part of this documentary and article and everything that's happening is only on forced adoption. It will open up a lot of other stuff, but at this particular point, I need everything. So I've had, goodness knows how many laptops, well, I know how many laptops, blah, 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 blah. But I've got a lot of databases and hard drives. So until I've got a proper working laptop to put all of this in, and I'm hoping we're going to be able to do this on Friday, which means I'm going to pull up all of the videos and everything from the inquiry into a thing that I'll manage to get from the reporter and journalist off the table and upload before sending back. So hopefully we'll have all of that available. So yeah, if you do have anything, then please put it down. I don't really care what you think about me in relation to this. I care what people think in a certain level, but you know, the mission is greater than what people think about me, and my ego really isn't that great to care. Do you know what I mean? So, Ma might love me or hate me. You know, you're not feeding my ego by going, "Oh, Kelly, she's amazing, she's great, she does this," and you're certainly not denting it by going, "She's fucking mental, she's mad, she's crazy, she is." You know, if I got battered, you know, she's loud, she is. Oh, she's quiet. Oh, bloody hell, she's fucking fat, isn't she? Oh God, what skinny cow she are? You know, if I got battered by everybody's opinions, like seriously, I'd be the most meek, shy, fucking nerve. I'd be an alcoholic and a fucking drug addict. You know what I mean? If I allowed that shit to bother me. So sometimes it gets me down, but not because it hurts me, but because it hurts getting you into your justice, and it's really important information. And I'm getting trolled on the other side of it because people don't want this can of worms open. I'm hoping James makes it here, okay? The fact is, we are dealing with something that could put a bullet to my head. You know, chances are Epstein was even killed. So, you know, people don't want, you know, this shit coming out. And the evidence that I have just on my removal alone shows evidence that they falsified and committed perjury and misfeasance and malfeasance and all their laws that they have that upholds them, hold them accountable, give them 10 years in prison. They have actually trafficked my kids. Save the Family in Mould. It's not called, it's not there now. They've now got another one in Cheshire. It got shut down. So Google the leader in Wrexham and Google Save the Family, Plasbellin. It got shut down literally as my case was going on, before my case got read. It got closed down by the council. They pulled all their funding out. They were taking children and offshoring them off to families that could afford the kids. Simple. Been doing it 30 years. They just think they're doing it from a good place, and actually, no, they're not. They didn't care. The good old Post said nobody thinks about the mother's arms that the baby was taken, and they don't think about the fathers either. And fathers are natural providers and protectors, but damn, feminists don't allow it. Governments run by fucking feminists. And if they're not feminists, then they're alpha fucking mayos and narcissists. And, you know, they don't understand this point of view. So basically, we don't need it. There's nothing they can do. As long as we obey by the 10 Commandments, we love our neighbor. You know, the Bible says that we shouldn't kill. So why have they got guns? If they're following God's law, then they wouldn't need guns in the first place. Do you know what I mean? So because they're protecting their greed, then they need this security, they need this policing, they need this protection, because they're so pre-absorbed in their lizard fucking brains that they've got in fight or flight 24/7, that they're always in protective mode. So how can you lead and empower a whole nation of people here in the UK and lead them into happy, healthy, thriving lives? I mean, look at their statistics of prisons and homelessness, and you know, we're responsible for our own lives, but we're responsible by the education that we've been given, and that education screwed us over. I was lucky; I got out. You know, I researched from another point of view. My life may not represent what people deem as success, but you know, I'm in a situation right now that I'm alive. I get through this every day, and I don't know many people who could wake up every day with what is on my shoulders and my plate each day that I have to deal with, whether I want to start my day fresh or not. It doesn't matter how fresh I want a day. I have the residual of yesterday every day, and I have to deal with how I choose to deal with that, depending on what day it is. Today is the 11th of September. Is Dean in or out of my life? It's a dump it, do it, delegate it. He said he was going away today anyway. We've had an argument, as always, you know, caused by other people's shit over you know, all this suspension going on with the benefits, and me being locked in the glass house, and he's saying, for as long as I challenge the state, it will keep happening to me. He said, you're going to get blacklisted soon, Kelly, and if they kick you off, mate, you won't be going back on. They will just take the kids and blah, 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 blah. So then he has a go at me and says, is it set up, blah, 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 blah. You just one of these right-wing lesbian feminists setting the kids up, blah, 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 blah. You know, my son was there. My son saw what we went through. My son felt what we went through as a family. My son personally knows. And when my son hugs me and tells me that he knows how I feel about the word proud, so he tells me that, you know, he admires my courage, blah, 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 and all those things are really important, that don't necessarily raise you up in ego, but just melt your heart and just allow you to trust and know that somebody's there, that you can cry on their shoulder and sob, and know that you can be at your weakest moment. Well, me and my son had that moment tonight, and, you know, that's all that matters to me. So I came on live. Fuck what these trolls think. Thank you to the people that are here, whether it be that I might teach you something that you need for your own life, because unfortunately my book was originally a mess to a message, but and this is a mess, but luckily I'm hoping that if I do deal with, speaking to our social worker today was really good healing. You know, when I said about going on to camp, you know, she was like, yeah, what, off the grid living? Yeah, fucking go for it. Like, you know, she was like, well, I can't see, as long as she's not, so I'm going to go and have a chat to her and actually plan with them, you know, what sort of a grid living they wouldn't have a problem with. And yeah, I'm going to go and find my land, basically, and write my book, and that's it. That's all I want to do. Right, find my land and write my book, and hopefully be ready for the 13th of December. So this should, if I can discipline myself, so I'm going to be turning off all feeds, opening all things. I'm even going to ask Amber to actually probably even, I don't know, maybe change my passwords and lock me out. And the only thing that is able to go up is all previous transcribes from this point. And I might put quotes and stuff out that I've done, but I will be back on the 13th of December. So, sorry, yeah, the 13th of December. So it's the 11th of September today. I'm hoping people are going to go out for Walk for Justice. And on the 13th of December, maybe people will be back to join me. But I'm hoping what you may do is actually go off and prepare for winter yourself, and maybe write your own book, and maybe we can all release books around the same time, ready for Christmas. Or mine is because my children were taken on that date, and a lot has happened since that date, and we've marked that date, and it's a build up to all the bullshit that they teach kids about Christmas. So it'd be a good time to bring some truths out. Do you know what I mean? So or just go and do something really great for you. You know, go and do something and put a smile on your face so you can smile at someone else. And, you know, don't let these bastards grind you down. Don't let what you're going through define you. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy. I know that. And suicide can be difficult. I know that. I go through it myself. And depression can be really challenging. And I know I go through it myself. And, you know, being a bit scatty and not quite having any clarity and not really being good to many people in terms of like not being able to commit to things or social anxieties. I get that. I go through it myself. But, you know, to take those times out to really just have some time to focus on you, some real self-care for you. So this period for me is about self-care. So Amber, that's for you guys is your message now. So it's about self-care, doing what you love. You know, what fabrics do you like? What clothing do you like to wear? What do you not like to wear? You know, what sort of shoes do you like to wear? What do you not like to wear? And I don't mean what's available in the shop, but maybe you could design it yourself. You know, maybe make something, design some clothes. You know, maybe start thinking about decorating your home, going a bit getting ready for autumn. Or maybe fuck it, maybe you don't want a winter and autumn at all. Maybe you just want to fuck off and live in the sun 24/7, and it's time to get your passports. So on the 18th I will be sorting Shiloh's passport out immediately, as you could do with yours £49. 50, you need 50 quid for a passport, fuck's sake, guys. Put 50 quid for a side. I'm sure people spend that on fags a month. I'm sure people spend that on weed a month. I'm sure there's people who spend that on drink a month or any other fucking drug that exists, or a night out or whatever. A passport for 50 fucking quid that you have for the rest of your days. And if you don't get it before all this happens, it's going to get a little bit complicated because the new passport hasn't been designed. So please do get your passports in before all this happens. And make sure you have all your ID, all your birth certificates, all that stuff ready for jaywalking if it comes. If not, then at least you got it. And if one day a cheap flight comes up or something and you think, wow, 250 for a full all-inclusive away for 5 days, that sounds absolutely amazing. I'm going to go and do a car boot and raise that money. You can go. You know, so, you know, that would be great. And you know, or maybe, you know, you may decide that you want to find out about going and living in another country and you are sick about what's going on in Britain, and maybe you do want to go over a couple of times and see how it goes and stuff. So, yeah, you know, please don't let what they've done to us, you know, and how they've wrapped us up in these belief systems that aren't true. Like, look, just prime example. You know, we were all fucking told that Father Christmas comes down the fucking chimney and brings us gift, for fuck's sake. So if they can lie to us about that, they can lie to us about anything. Do you know what I mean? Even the globe in the side of the fucking corner, just because, you know, we had a round globe, we think that we live on this round planet. So, you know, what else can you really get a hole in one? Did anyone really get a hole in one? How do you know? Okay, I've actually stood there and seen a hole in one, and I've seen someone get a perfect 10 on a strike, so I do know that stuff exists. But does perfection really exist? Dean, in his own way, is perfect in my eyes. I love him, always will do. Whatever happens between us, we're together for as long as he either sees the kids or doesn't see the kids. And I'm actually quite happy to have this time to get me and the kids out of this situation. And I know 100% that if this eviction goes ahead, if I can't clear all of these debts, and it's debts because I chose to work for free, so I take that on the chin, and, you know, having to pay back people to get to places, blah, 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 blah. But I know full well that if the shit hits the fan, I can walk out this door and Dean can walk in. And if that's what had to happen, then I would do that. So, and it would be interesting because they'd pull me back not long after, because I don't think he'd cope. I don't think anyone would cope. I don't think, even if they tried to even take my kids, I don't think Elijah and Shiloh would necessarily, and everybody knows them in this area. So, and I'm quite happy about everybody knowing they're my kids, because Elijah and Shiloh will go to people. Well, they won't go to people. They would find their way home. That's the thing. And they are adventurous kids, that they would be the kids that if they put them anywhere in Portsmouth, that between the two of them, they know the ins and outs of this entire place, and they would walk off and come and find mommy. So that would be quite amusing. So, but anyway, I've sent my warning about all of that. So, can I walk out, hand my keys over and go and find my land? I'd like to think I can, but I don't want to do it in a car because it's not very practical and I need more space. And I would like to have a base. Do I expect the government to pay for that space? No, but if they're going to force me to have an address, then so fucking be it. And I might as well just force a 2-bedroom move and sort debts out and let their benefits fucking pay it and go and live my life. And if they ever come back over it, fuck them. Do you know what I mean? So, and if I ever do, you know, make more money than what he gets to, then, you know, I deal with it then. I'm not being transparent with people like that anymore. So they just steal my ideas, take my ideas, make 10%, and that's not very good. So anyway, I've rambled. And so yeah, guys, I might put a couple of chapters or a couple of the bits from the book, but officially from this point forward, in the next hour, I am officially, other than research, which I'm hoping I'm going to have all by Friday anyway, so I'm not even going to have to go online. And anything that happens after this time, I can really deal with in 3 months' time. It is going to move fast. There is no government right now. There's no MPs for me to write to. I can write to them as individuals, but I can officially turn up at their house now because they're not MPs, they're not in Parliament. Nobody, they're all just normal civilians at the moment. They are getting statutory pay. So let's hope they get out in their community and start getting to know the people. So maybe you can go and talk to these people and talk to your next door neighbour who may want to run as an MP. So now it's up to the community to decide who's going to be going into position. And I'm looking forward to, I think it's the 10th of October. They've got to be ready in time to literally lead all of us into agreement on how we, the people of Great Britain, are going to live in peace, love, and harmony and prosperity between us all, and be civil without, any outside structures and things, and no agreement of imports and expectations. So it's everybody eat dog, everything time, anarchy. Be safe. Pray for you all. See you on the other side. Bye bye.